And here in Canada, a tornado touched down in Western Manitoba on Friday, ripping through farmland just south of Virden.
A very large, violent tornado was on the ground for about 10 minutes. It did hit a farmyard. We went and checked, and unfortunately, in that same area, it threw two different vehicles, one into the ditch.
The Wallace District Fire Department had to pull one person from their car. An air ambulance was also dispatched to the area. No word yet on any injuries. The storm left hundreds of people in the dark after knocking out power lines with heavy winds, rain, and hail. And joining us now is Aaron Jajak. He's a storm chaser from Manitoba. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Hey, good morning. How are you?
Good. All right. So can you describe where you were when the tornado took place?
Yeah, so we were on a little highway, a two-lane highway south of Virden. It's near the town of Scarth, Manitoba, I believe is how you pronounce it. And we were watching on radar. We saw the storm kind of organizing and coming together and set up there just south of Virden. There, maybe like 10 miles or so, 13 miles. And we were just north of that farmhouse that got hit when the tornado first started ramping up.
Wow, we're looking at the footage right now. It is incredible. It looks very scary. How long was a twister on the ground for?
So I would say it was on the ground for at least 10 minutes. You know, we saw the rotating wall cloud, started rapidly rotating. Saw a brief funnel here and there trying to drop down out of it. So I would imagine it was probably already a tornado at that point, and we tweeted out alerts on Twitter so that people could get warning. ECC, Environment Canada watches that as well, likely, and sees those tweets to help them put out the warnings. And we got a tornado warning shortly after those tweets went out, and that was probably about 10 minutes before we actually saw the tornado ourselves. But like I was saying, I think that tornado could have been down before that, and maybe it was up to 15 to 20 minutes the tornado was actually down. But it was definitely about 10 minutes where it was fully condensed, and you could definitely tell it was a tornado.
Wow, and how rare was this tornado?
I mean, it's August in Manitoba in the prairies. You know, this is definitely the time of the year that you can see tornadoes. Now, that being said, this tornado, it was a large tornado. It was a strong tornado, and it was also a very you could see that tornado from all directions, all angles of the storm. A lot of times when tornadoes happen, they can be hidden by the rain shaft, the rain that's coming down from the storm. But not in this case. This thing was seen from multiple angles. So the fact that it was such a strong tornado, and it was damaging, and there, it's terrible how damaging they are. It would have just been 50, 100 yards. Either way, it would have missed that house. And at the same time, it's mesmerizing and remarkable to watch that thing just spinning overhead out there.
Absolutely. I'm looking at the footage and I was thinking the exact same thing. Well, let's talk about the damage. What kind of damage was left behind afterwards?
Yeah, so initially, we saw it winding up out in the field, and it hit a grove of trees, and it looked like it was actually going to come towards us, and it made a little bit of a turn to the northeast, and turned right into the farmhouse, the farm area. And so as we were, we could see it lofting debris, and it looked like it was mostly like the grain silos and whatnot that were being shredded in the tornado. And it crossed the road in front of us, and we couldn't, we see a big dirty debris cloud, so you can't really tell individual debris that's in there. So we didn't actually see any cars or anything like that being thrown around. And it crossed the road, went out in the field, and after we felt like it was safely past us, we could go to the farmhouse to see if anybody was hurt there. So we pull up to the farmhouse, and the first thing we saw were two vehicles. There was one, a Jeep Grand Cherokee, that had been thrown just off the road, upside down in a ditch. And then there was a white pickup truck that had been rolled probably a good 100, 150 yards into the field to our east. So it followed along. It had been pulled with the tornado and moved along out into the field. And so we immediately started yelling to see if anybody was in the vehicle. And sure enough, we heard someone respond. And in the vehicle that was in the ditch, it was a red Jeep Grand Cherokee. And so I started talking to that guy. It was a man, he's 54 years old, I believe, or so. And I asked him if he had any injuries, and he said he didn't have any injuries, but that he was stuck. He couldn't move. He was pinned in the vehicle. It was upside down. And he was having difficulties breathing because of respiratory issues with asthma. And so I just sat there and talked to him and tried to keep him calm until paramedics arrived, and fire trucks and the police and whatnot. My fiance, who's also a storm chaser, was with me. She called 911 and sat on 911 until they arrived about 15 minutes later. So.
Wow, just incredible story. I'm glad everybody's okay. What will the cleanup efforts look like after this?
You know, it was out because it was out in the open and it only hit the one farmhouse. You know, there was a little bit of farm machinery and the grain silos. So, you know, it wasn't an incredible not a lot of debris that was laying around. And definitely, I think they'll have it cleaned up within a day or so. And most of the damage looked like it was to trees and to the farm. You know, the fields were scoured from the debris rolling through the field, and you could actually I just posted some drone footage recently just a couple of minutes ago to Twitter, and you can actually see the circular pattern where the debris was rotating and gouging the soil and ripping out the plants and whatnot. So I think it was mostly, thankfully, it was a lot of just, you know, damage to trees and agriculture. And the house, I ran to the house, the farmhouse, to make sure anybody was there. Nobody was home there. In fact, the owner showed up as I was there and running back to the red Jeep to get back to that guy. But the house itself looked like it didn't suffer any damage. It mostly just grazed by and just did damage to the farm equipment. So.
They're very lucky. Well, thank you so much for that. Thanks for that update. Once again, that is Aaron Jajak, that he is a storm chaser. Thanks for that update.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.